Surely you will conquer Constantinople. What a magnificent commander that commander will be, and what a magnificent army that army will be. Upon hearing these words of the Prophet Muhammad, Muslims for centuries pursued a single goal: to conquer Constantinople and earn this praise. Hello friends, today's topic is how Constantinople fell into Ottoman hands. Everyone knows who finally took it, but don't worry, there is quite an adventure before we get there. Without further ado, I kindly ask you to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and let's begin the video. The first attempt was made during the reign of Caliph Uthman. The Islamic army under Muawiyah sailed with ships and clashed with Roman forces near Istanbul, but unfortunately had to turn back without success. The second attempt took place during Muawiyah's own caliphate. This time it was commanded by Yazid ibn Muawiyah. The army even included Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, a companion of the Prophet who had reached his 90s. Their sole aim: to earn the Prophet Muhammad's magnificent praise. The siege was conducted from both land and sea. Unfortunately, many companions and warriors, including Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, fell martyred in these battles. Yet still, Istanbul could not be taken. Then, in turn, the Umayyad caliphs Sulaiman ibn Abd al-Malik, Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, and the Abbasid caliph Muhammad al-Mahdi tried. All failed. During the reign of Harun al-Rashid, war was declared against the Roman Empire 3 times, great victories were won, but still Istanbul was not captured. With the rise of the Shia Fatimid state and the spread of esotericism, conquest attempts ceased for a full 200 years. Until the Turks came to Anatolia, that is when everything began again. The Sultanate was taken from the Arabs and given to the Muslim Turks. The first Muslim Turk to besiege Istanbul was Sultan Bayezid I, the Thunderbolt of the Ottomans. Ambitious, courageous, and fast as his name suggested, the Sultan besieged Istanbul 4 times. During the final siege, he nearly took it. But then Timur entered Anatolia and upended all plans. He had to lift the siege, and the conquest was postponed once more. During the reign of Sultan Murad II, Istanbul was besieged again, and great progress was made. But this time, due to the rebellion of Mustafa the Impostor, instigated with Roman help, and attacks on Bursa by Karaman and Germiyan, the siege had to be lifted. Nevertheless, Sultan Murad II completed the preparations and specifically recommended the conquest of Istanbul in his will to his son, Mehmed II. When Sultan Mehmed II ascended the throne, everyone underestimated him. He treated the foreign delegations who came to congratulate him so kindly and peacefully that everyone began to think he was a naive young man. He even responded gently to the Eastern Romans' excessive demands regarding Prince Orhan, granting lands to other states to pacify the region. Why? Because his true goal was to earn the praise of the Prophet Muhammad, to fulfill his father's will, and to eliminate the thorn in the Ottoman side, the Eastern Roman Empire. The Eastern Romans, who caused trouble for the Ottomans at every critical moment and served as the #1 agents of the Crusader armies, had to be removed for both peace and defense. But first, he had another problem to deal with: the Karamanid Beylik, which stabbed the Ottomans in the back at every opportunity. The Karamanids, taking advantage of the new Sultan, attacked Ottoman territory. Sultan Mehmed II immediately sent his Anatolian governor, Ishak Pasha. Ishak Pasha did not waste time and marched against the Karamanids. Seeing the danger, Ibrahim Bey cunningly withdrew to the Tasheli region and offered peace from there. Sultan Mehmed II accepted the offer, both because he did not wish to shed Muslim blood and because the ulama of Konya were also in favor of peace. But there was another reason. The delegation the Eastern Romans had sent to Edirne, mistaking the Sultan's kind demeanor for weakness, grew reckless. They demanded double the 300,000 silver pieces previously agreed for Prince Orhan, threatening to release him otherwise. This is why the Sultan accepted peace with the Karamanids, even leaving Alanya Castle to them, and returned. He brushed off the Eastern Roman envoys, saying, "We will talk when I return to Edirne." But once back in Edirne, he settled the matter. He declared plainly that he would not pay another single coin for Prince Orhan. This was the first spark of the war that would close one great age and open another. The Eastern Roman Empire had shrunk so much that only Istanbul remained. yet it was still a center of treachery for the Ottomans. The Roman emperor caused trouble for the Ottomans at every opportunity and, despite sectarian differences, continued to incite the Catholic world. The Ottomans would never find peace until it was destroyed. Constantine's threat of Prince Orhan gave Sultan Mehmed II the opportunity to annul the peace treaty. The time had come to stop pretending to be peace-loving. The Sultan convened the Great Council and decided on a campaign against Rome. He had to act quickly, to take measures against attacks that might come from the Black Sea, the Aegean, Anatolia, and Rumelia, and to besiege and conquer the city immediately. Preparations began at once. First move, to build a fortress opposite the Anatolian fortress built by his great-grandfather Bayezid the Thunderbolt on the Anatolian shore. This would prevent any aid arriving from the Black Sea. The fortress was completed in just 4 months. Huge cannons were placed on the sea-facing gates and towers. These cannons reached the opposite shore. The same cannons were placed in the Anatolian fortress as well. Thus, both shores of the Bosphorus were brought under control, and aid from the Black Sea was cut off. Moreover, a tax was imposed on ships passing through the Bosphorus, filling the treasury. On October 26, 1452, a Venetian ship carrying barley tried to pass without paying the tax, ignored the order to stop, and was sunk. The message was clear. Sultan Mehmed II had presented himself so misleadingly to the envoys of the Western Empire that he was absolutely certain the Western world would send no serious aid to the Eastern Romans. The Westerners thought the Turks could not take Istanbul. The famous humanist Filelfo even wrote in a letter to King Charles VIII of France that the Turks' young ruler was a youth who has seen no war, inexperienced, immoral, and addicted to women, claiming the Ottomans were weaker than ever. What deceived the Westerners was Sultan Mehmed II's political genius, which was as strong as his military genius. The Western world truly believed the Eastern Romans did not need help and prepared no attack against the Ottomans. To counter the possibility that Skanderbeg in Albania might offer support, an army under Ibrahim Bey was sent there. Thus, aid from Rumelia was also cut off. To prevent aid from the Aegean, most of the fleet was stationed in the Sea of Marmara. Troops were also left in Anatolia, securing that region as well. Istanbul had been besieged 28 times. It was highly experienced in defense. The city was surrounded by walls on all sides. On the western side were double-layered walls, 15 meters high and 5 to 6 meters thick, the strongest part of the city. Between the walls lay a deep water-filled ditch. The weakest point was the walls along the Golden Horn, but entry to the Golden Horn was blocked by a massive chain stretching from Galata to Sarayburnu. To demolish the famous walls of Istanbul, the most powerful cannons ever built began to be cast in Edirne. Sultan Mehmed II, himself a cannon master, received help from the Hungarian cannon founder Urban, as well as the engineers Muslihiddin Bey and Saruka. With great expense and effort, they produced the largest cannons ever made. These cannons were called Shahi. They had a range of 1 kilometer and opened deep craters where they struck. Sultan Mehmed II completed the campaign preparations. Before the people marched out, he sent Karaka Bey to conquer the area around Istanbul. Karaka Bey captured Silivri, Vis, Kumburgaz, and Yeşilköy, locking the Eastern Romans inside Istanbul. Finally, Sultan Mehmed II set out from Edirne with his armies toward Istanbul. Although Western writers depict the Roman forces as 7,000 to 8,000 soldiers, it is clear they had at least 20,000. The countryside around Istanbul had already been conquered, and people fleeing to Istanbul had mostly joined the Roman army. Behind the Golden Horn walls were 12 Roman warships. On the Golden Horn and Marmara walls, only guards were stationed. They felt safe there. Almost the entire Ottoman army was deployed before the walls of Edirne, meaning the Theodosian walls of Istanbul. Against the Ottomans' powerful Shahi cannons, the Eastern Romans' weapon was Greek fire. This liquid was sprayed from the walls onto the enemy through hoses resembling modern flamethrowers. When water was poured on it, the flames grew fiercer. It could only be extinguished with sand or lime. The Ottoman forces arrived before the walls on Friday, April 16, 1453. Beforehand, Sultan Mehmed II had offered the Roman emperor the chance to surrender, take his gold, and guarantee that no harm would come to the people. But the emperor refused. For Sultan Mehmed II, there was no choice left but war. At dawn, the siege began with the firing of the great Shahi cannons. Although the cannons inflicted great damage on the walls, the Romans quickly repaired them and rained arrows down on the Ottomans from the towers. The Ottoman soldiers advancing toward the walls with ladders and siege towers encountered a disastrous situation. The Romans sprayed Greek fire from the walls, burning the towers and ladders. The Ottoman army covered the towers with several layers of oxide and mud and tried again, but could not prevent them from burning. Breaking through the walls was truly difficult. Next, they tried to enter the city by digging tunnels from many places, but the Romans discovered these tunnels and detonated them with gunpowder. Some tunnels collapsed into deep water pits. Ottoman casualties were mounting, and morale was failing. Adding to this, envoys from Hungary told the Sultan that if he did not lift the siege, they would declare war. This news caused division in the council. Some pashas suggested lifting the siege, while scholars and saints such as Akhshemseddin, Shemseddin of Sivas, Emir Buhari, Molla Fenari, and Molla Gurani argued that they must continue, trying to encourage the army. Sultan Mehmed II ordered the intensification of mortar and cannon fire. At that moment, 4 Genoese and Roman ships carrying food, ammunition, and soldiers arrived in Istanbul from the Sea of Marmara. Baltaciolu Süleyman Bey confronted them near Zeytinburnu with his fleet of 147 ships. A fierce naval battle began. Both the pashas and the emperor watched this battle from the shore of Zeytinburnu. The Genoese ships were far larger than the Ottoman ships, and moreover, the southwest wind favored the Genoese. These 4 great ships, aided by the wind, slipped through the Ottoman vessels and escaped. Sultan Mehmed II, watching everything from the shore, went mad with rage. He mounted his horse and rode toward the sea. Even when foam appeared at the horse's mouth, he did not stop, entering the water until his robes were soaked. The ships reached the Golden Horn and delivered enough aid to keep Rome going for some time. This event brought joy to Rome and sorrow to the Ottomans. Sultan Mehmed II had Baltaciolu Süleyman Bey beaten with 100 strokes of the rod and dismissed him from his post. He was replaced by Hamza Bey. On April 21st, as cannon fire intensified, the Great Wall near Topkapi collapsed. But the next morning, the Romans woke in astonishment. Why? Because 67 galleys, dragged from the shores of Karaköy, had been hauled overland from Qasim Pasha into the Golden Horn, a distance of 3 kilometers. The Romans who witnessed this were shocked. Most of the Roman ships in the Golden Horn were destroyed by fire from both the ships already there and the cannons on the Galata shore. With this move, the Romans' attention shifted to the Golden Horn walls in addition to the walls of Edirne, Theodosian walls. A large portion of the army was sent to the Golden Horn walls. The Romans held religious processions through the streets, carrying icons of the Virgin Mary. That day, an icon of the Virgin Mary fell to the ground and shattered. This omen of ill fortune destroyed their hopes. Then, a sudden downpour of rain and heavy hail further devastated them. The breaking of the Virgin Mary icon and other natural disasters completely broke the morale of the Roman people. The day before, 9 breaches had been opened in the walls of Istanbul. The Romans, their resources exhausted, could not repair these breaches. Still, even with little hope, they would make their final stand. To reduce the intensity on the Edirne western side, the Ottoman navy withdrew into the Marmara and staged a fake landing. On the Golden Horn, they built a bridge from barrels, and soldiers began entering the city from the Galata side across this bridge. Others assaulted the walls on the Edirne side. After the morning prayer, the Ottoman army prepared for the assault and waited for the signal. After the morning prayer, the Sultan performed 2 additional prostrations of prayer and begged God for victory. Then he drew his sword, mounted his horse, and ordered the trumpet to sound. When the trumpet sounded, the army launched its assault. As the navy advanced in the Marmara, soldiers from Galata rushed across the bridge on the Golden Horn into the city. The Ottoman soldiers on the Edirne side began climbing the walls en masse. As the battle raged fiercely, a giant janissary named Ulubatlı Hasan, along with his comrades, succeeded in climbing the walls and planted the Turkish flag on the great towers. Seeing the Turkish flag, the Ottoman soldiers managed to enter the city with all their might, and the fighting spread through the city. The Romans' endurance waned, and they began fleeing toward the Hagia Sophia. By midday, it was clear the city had fallen. From that moment on, Ottoman soldiers began praying in the streets, thanking God, and kissing the ground.